get to experience it.
So you guys are doing clinicals here? Is that what you're doing? Yeah. So back in 88, 89, I did my nursing clinicals here. Because I'm actually a nurse. But, yeah, that was a long time ago. But, so, I'm going to do a little history on our campus here in Eastern Kansas. And then, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name's Joseph Rowe. I've worked here for 30 years. But, started in nursing for like first 15 years, and then this 15 years I've been down here in medical media. What I do is I'm the photographer for the VA. I also run all the TVs and all the audio visual, just all the fun stuff. This is my classroom, which we have orientation and any meetings and stuff. Alrighty, so the original name of this campus, the original name of this campus was the Western Branch National Home for Disabled Volunteer Soldiers. So after the Civil War, there was a lot of veterans that just had no place to go, and they were sick or lost their limbs, or so they had to have a place. So the government created all these soldiers' homes. So we were one of the first ones here in Leavenworth, and so this campus was built in 1885, so it was like 20 some years after the Civil War. So this is what it looked like. All the veterans lived in these big, what we call domiciliaries. And when I started here, there were still like 1,000 veterans that lived over in these old doms. And sometimes I'd have to take, one over there to, because he was going to stay in the dom for a while. And so what it looked like was big open wards, and then they had bunks and then like a dresser to put their personal stuff in. And back in the day, this is where the veterans ate their meals. So this is what we call the mess hall. Now it's the CPAC building. They do all the billing for insurance. And then on the top floor was there was a dance hall, a stage. So and then the Missouri River is back in the back corner. This is the governor's home. The governor's home that's actually back here in the back, toward the back gate. But originally it sat right where the hospital is. So back in the 1930s they moved it back to over here and then built the hospital. That's just one of the flyers that we used to have. But you can see sometimes the old guys call it Wadsworth. So this place has kind of changed names over the years, but yeah, originally the old guys called it Wadsworth. It was like its own little town. The front entrance, if you guys came in the front entrance, there used to be a train tracks that went in front of the VA here. The train depot is still out front when you come in the front entrance. There's the mess hall we talked about, but there's the original hospital that sat up there by Lake Jeanette. I'll show you some better pictures of it. So yeah, this is kind of cool too. This was where the band lived. I mean, they had their own band, and most of the staff that worked here lived here. So like this building was all nursing. All the nurses that worked here lived in this building. So there's the original hospital in Lake Jeanette. And this at one point was a TB ward. So when TB was really bad, tuberculosis. There's our chapel, and there's the Missouri River. You can see we're fairly close. And all this is National Cemetery now. There's a better picture. This picture even shows, did you guys come in the front? Yeah. So there's I don't know if you guys went by the chapel, but right next to it used to be a big theater, and it had like theater seating and a big stage, and it had a radio station in the top part up here. That was kind of cool. and then a library. There's the hospital. So the hospital was built in 1935. So you see right here where the train tracks used to go. And that building right here, that's the old depot. So this is what the veterans look like back then, kind of like me. I usually wouldn't usually have this big old beard, but I do reenactment stuff, so like Wild West type shooting stuff. But these guys, that's how they live. Look at that guy. But so back in the day, it was still like they were still in the military. They had uniforms issued to them, and each domiciliary had some guy that was in charge. So there's another picture that says Wadsworth. So you guys came from you'll be over in the Dom. Yeah. So if you look right in the center, there's a large stained glass window of Abraham Lincoln, and that's where it used to be. And that was the Ward Administration Building. It was like a library and stuff like that. But they took it out of there when that building started to deteriorate, and they crated it up and they put it in another building. And then when they built the Dom, then they put it in there. So I took this picture quite a few years ago. It was just the same shot. So this is in the 1930s when they were building the hospital. And when I started here, there was just big open wards with, at the very end, what was crazy is there was a smoking area for the veterans and nurses. Nurses even smoked at the desk too. Yeah, at the very end, if you can imagine, there was a smoking area, and then there was a large area with a TV, and they'd eat their meals. And then there was a big area where there was just partitions. So each veteran had, a partitioned area with his bed and a cabinet. And then there was like 2 rooms that were just single rooms. But yeah, just big open wards. Where now it's all rooms, everything. Well, even it used to be that there was like 3 veterans to a room up on the med-surg floor. I think now it's only 2 or even just 1. Yeah, they used to have a minor league baseball team here in Leavenworth. It was right across the street, about where that old Walmart is. But that's 4th Street that goes in front of the VA. So all the brick for all the buildings was made from clay that they dug up from this area, this Lake Jeanette. And this, I've seen this picture a million times, but this looks like a military plane. See the circle here? I love pictures. They tell a lot of stories. So there's the hospital. It's actually 3 separate buildings, and then they built walkways in between. So it's A, B, and C, or 89, 90, and 91. But the I'm always looking for postcards and pictures on the internet to see if I can find pictures of the VA. So some of these are just old postcards, but you can see it says Wadsworth. But back in the day, well, when I started here in 80 or 92, there was a post office and a bank, so it was just like pretty much self-sufficient still. Kind of a cool picture. So the hospital sits back over here, and there's that mess hall, and then just some veterans hanging out. But we used to have like 10 of these Civil War cannons that sat all up here. And then there was a large gazebo, like where the band would play. But I've got a postcard that says that came from the First World's Fair in St. Louis in 1904. And then they brought it here, which it had a basement in it for the band, could store their equipment and stuff, but that thing was extremely large. This I took a picture of many, many years ago. It was over by near where the chapel is, but if you see, it says 1890. But this was like, you know, where the water up the street would go down the gutter, and National Home for Disabled Volunteer Soldiers. But that's long gone. Hard telling where it went. Even when I first started here, this is kind of how it was, with 1,000 veterans living in them old doms. They just kind of wandered around. There wasn't really any, not structure, but they just didn't have anything for them to do. They just hung out. So there's the old mess hall. At times they had steps that went up to the second floor. But that place is so cool. Before they started working on it, I went in and took tons of pictures. And there's a spiral staircase that goes up here. And this is like a lookout. And there was like veterans had signed from way back when, signed their name the year they were here. But now it's all painted over and they redid it. Yeah. But I've got pictures. So, yeah. If you guys can tell, it took me many years, but this is an eagle here, an iron eagle, a design of an eagle. Anheuser-Busch used to donate all their beer not all their beer, but some beer, to the veterans. And they used to have a place called the Dugout. It's back behind this building. So the veterans could go there, they'd get 2 tickets a day, and they could get 2 beers. Well, then Prohibition came, no more drinking, especially up here. And then the guys would go out front, and they had little shanty buildings and stuff, and they'd go out there and drink all day, and then close you up in the evening. But yeah, it was all structured. So, hard telling what year this was. What's really cool about this picture, some of these chairs are still around the hospital. They're like ivy-looking metal chairs. You know, they're about 400 pounds. You can't pick them off. But that's what it looks like now. It's all fancy and it's really neat inside. But it's all cubicles. I think I've got pictures on there. So this is when they were building it. Back in the day, this is one of the largest buildings in Kansas. Back in the late 1800s. So that's what it looked like inside when the veterans would have their meals. And this picture is just crazy. Look, it's all just absolutely angled perfect. But yeah, if you can imagine trying to feed 1,000 guys every day. So when I went in there was like a drop-down ceiling. You couldn't see all this, but in this picture you can't tell. But this is all painted. It's all in this picture you can kind of see, but it's all painted like mural design. There you can kind of see it. See all those little designs and stuff up there? Oh, that's a picture when I took up through the drop-down ceiling. But if you can imagine that big old ceiling, and it's got all those swirls and all this. I don't know how they painted it, because the ceilings are really tall. So when I went in there and took pictures before they started working on it, this is what it looked like. Just a big open building. This is the top floor that had the stage. But this floor was terrible. Oh my. But what's crazy is all this wood up here on these pillars, that was all perfect. It was like pristine. So that's what it looks like now. So from that, tons of cubicles, but they left all this ornate wood and the pillars. It's really neat. So that's the stage. You guys know who Bob Hope is? Most younger people have no clue. But Bob Hope, he came here and entertained the veterans, and he stayed in the governor's home. And he wrote a little signature on the. So that's what it looks like now. From that to boom.
CPAC now?
Yes, CPAC. So they do. If veterans have their own insurance, they do the billing. So. for that. So this is kind of a cool picture. There's the chapel. So it was in Ripley's, believe it or not, because it was one of the only chapels in the world that they could hold both Protestant and Catholic services at the same time. So the top part is Protestant and the bottom part is Catholic. What's really cool, it's got these gargoyles, and it actually, when it rains, the water comes out the gargoyle's mouth. But oh, there it is. So this is down in the Catholic chapel, but this is oh, the stained glass is just amazing over there. But the center part of this is Western Branch National Home for Disabled Volunteer Soldiers. So the little house beside it would have been where the chaplain lived. So that's in the, I think that's the Catholic chapel upstairs, or downstairs. And that's upstairs. A lady from Washington, I don't know if it was the Library of Congress or whatever, she came and took tons of pictures. This is back 20 years ago or so. But anyway, so I went around with her and I took pictures too, but so she was documenting all of our buildings, because all these buildings are on the National Historical Register. What's crazy about this picture is, I was just thinking about it, to get up here, there's actually steps that go on the outside of the building in the back that you have to walk up, which those have been there since the 1890s. So down in the Catholic chapel, it's all ornate, pressed tin, and it kind of tells stories in the center. But I've read where all that came from Europe, so they brought it over here and they put it in there. Yeah, that's in the Catholic chapel.
It doesn't look like it's in the basement.
No. So this is probably ground level here, but yeah, isn't that neat? But what's sad is the roof's going bad and water's just ruining most of it. Because the government doesn't want to take care of those outbuildings like this, because it's not making the government any money. They'll take care of the doms and whatnot, but the Ward Administration building, the one catty corner from the hospital, yeah, it's totally falling apart.
Even though it's on the historic registry, they
Yeah.
don't have a minimum standard they have to maintain?
No, I guess not.
No.
If they want to go and fix it up, they have to do it exactly like it was. So, that's big money. That's the Protestant chapel upstairs. Oh, there's a better picture. So you can see, it's very painted, yeah. I need to get over there before it gets way too bad.
Is that church still used today?
No. A few years ago, I think they were still doing weddings, but there's no services for the veterans. Yeah, isn't that something? Yeah.
And you can't take it down either because it's on, so it's just gonna rot.
Yeah.
That's sad.
It's terrible.
He looked like a leech on it.
Yeah, he does. They do have leashes, yeah. Yeah.
Whatever you did, you're forever here.
So, there's that large band, I don't know what you want to call it. It's not really a gazebo because it's humongous. Look at these guys. But, so when they were putting that, there's a parking lot here now. But when they were digging this up to do the parking lot, they hit a bunch of structure under the ground. I said, oh yeah, that's probably the basement that was to this. But you can see it over there. This is all brick at one point, back in the 1800s, late 1800s. One of the cannons.
Is it preserved with brick or is it
It's under the asphalt, yeah. Cause when they were working back here on this is First Street or Franklin Avenue, and then the next street over is Second Street. So it's behind these buildings. But yeah, they were working on something, and I went over and took a bunch of pictures. Yeah, it's layers of asphalt and then brick. Yeah. Yeah, and I've looked all over at the World's Fair pictures from St. Louis, and I can't find this building. I even contacted, and they said it looks like what would have been there, but they couldn't find it.
There's some pieces from the World Fair in Waukegan, Kansas, of all places too.
Really?
Yeah.
Like building type like this?
I think it's the pillars outside of, on Main Drag, Waukegan, where they have plays and things.
Mhm.
And that's part of the World Fair too.
Oh, that's
All
cool.
places. Yeah, it's weird.
So in the 1970s, I think it was, this was kind of falling apart, I guess, in the 70s. So I got pictures where they tried to bring it down, and they couldn't. So they put chains around these pillars and had a bunch of tractors and then pulled it down. Which is, I mean, why? That's so neat. They're doing a flag ceremony. It's hard to imagine how tall that is. And our flagpole's still about the same spot. This building right here, that used to be near the chapel, was a hotel. It had like 7, 8 rooms. It had a little store in there, and a little theater down in the bottom part. This building, or this little shack, you can see it over by the hospital. Oh, it's kind of catty-cornered. But it's where they used to store the fire equipment, the fire hose or whatever. It used to be in there, and it's still over there. There's the hotel. They call it Opera House. It's back part of his Opera House. That's the governor's home. This is set right where the hospital is. The governor would have been like the director of the hospital, Rudy. You know, at the time, that's where the director would have lived. Now we have nursing education, I think so. So there's a little building next to it, a little house. So now we have like clothing for the veterans. They can go over there and get shoes, socks, whatever they need. And that's what it looks like now. the governor's home. And that's that little house next to it. That's what it used to look like. And I don't know why, in the 70s, they decided everything needed to be painted white. I guess that was the neat thing to do. I mean, even the mess hall was white at one time. But that's what it looks like now, painted up real nice. I really think we need to have a museum in here. I mean, the clothing room needs to be over in the Dom. That's my opinion. That's where the guys are. This ought to be a museum.
That'd be great.
Just 'cause I like history.
That's what you're doing in retirement.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. So that's the original hospital, which is very cool. People used to come out here on the weekends and listen to the band play. There was a gazebo that was on Lake Jeanette too. Oh, there was. I don't even know what picture's gonna come up next, but there's the gazebo that band would play and people would sit out here and listen. And I think they doctored this picture, cause that pond is not that big. No way. So there's the brick factory that's not here anymore. But this is Lake Jeanette, and that's where they used to dig up the clay and make the bricks for all the buildings. Just some postcards.
I wonder if veterans were like operating the brick factory, were they?
It
Like, were
could have
they,
been.
like,
All the guys that, you know, the veterans there was a farm out to the back area, and the guys that worked the farm, the veterans would. There was, over in these buildings over here, there was cabinet factory. They made cabinets, fixed furniture. This is, building 122. When I started here, there was a nursing home, outpatient. I'm not really sure what else. A lot of offices. That's pretty much what it looks like now. This is the administration. Some of the well, I'm trying to think. Just administration people. There's offices in there. But back in the day, that's like the headquarters building for. This is kind of cool. So that's the original picture, and so the guy that worked in medical media before me, he'd been here like 30 some years, and he just took all kinds of old pictures, historical stuff, and just stuck them behind the curtain in boxes and stuff. So for the last 30 years, that's what I've been doing is I'll take the pictures and I'll scan them and put them on disc, and so I've got all the originals. But like this picture, and then they made the same picture into a postcard. But, so this is the Anheuser-Busch fountain. I don't know why they donated a fountain and then an eagle, but that's what. And beer did not spew at the top. But there's some of those Civil War cannons, which I went over to Fort Leavenworth a couple years ago, and they've got 2 of our cannons over there, and it shows pictures of it here, you know, at the VA. But yeah, they've got them over there, and they're just kind of on pedestals in front of the museum. But, and if you guys get a chance, that's a cool museum. They've got a lot of neat stuff. Like they've got the wagon that Abraham Lincoln rode in when he came through Leavenworth and Atchison. Pretty neat. And this fountain is so weird. Anheuser-Busch, it kind of fits in now with their problems, but there's a little fairy looking thing on top of that. I don't know what. Anyway. So this is the front entrance. It's kind of shaped different now. Kind of goes to a Y, but you can see the train people out front. And St. Mary's is over there on the other side. And I don't know why they put the girls on that cannon. Oh, there's a picture of the museum, and there's the cannons. Yeah. They got covered wagons, they got all kinds of stuff. So, this is the Spanish cannon. It's still over there by the flagpole, so I'll tell you guys a secret. So, there used to be a plaque here, and I'll show you something. Nobody knows about it, but you guys will. Just a minute.
Yes.
I say when you say like the gargoyle stuff, like yeah, it makes sense, like the whole spooky stuff, you like spooky hotel.
Yeah, I want one real bad.
So what I did, I've got pictures where you can read this pretty good. So what I did is I made one out of, you know, and laminated and whatever. But so that's exactly what it used to say on the cannon. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over there sometime and glue it on there. And do it. But that's what it used to say. Because otherwise, it's just sitting there and you know, it's a cannon. But if you don't know the history and where it came from, it's pretty cool. That's what's on top of it. So it was made in 1856 in Spain. And I don't know why in the world they brought it clear out here to Kansas, but they did. But that's what it looked like inside the domes. Now, when I started here, it just had partitions, but pretty much it was all like that. The big open areas.
Better than that now.
Oh, yeah. All the noise.
I can hear it now.
And can you imagine, there's no air conditioning. No air conditioning, no.
We
One.
get a picture of this to show them when they're complaining about having a roommate.
Yeah. I was like all them guys.
Yeah.
And then fans, and then oil lamps, and yeah. Well, I think they had a few bathrooms in the center part, but
and his roommate were 20.
We're just hanging out. No more. So that's this building, building 71. So all the nurses live there. All these happy nurses. I think I've worked with somebody.
Especially one on the left.
Yeah.
So next year's like,
Was that during prohibition or drinking?
I don't know.
one about her.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they got the cutest ones in that picture. So if you know where the water tower is back here, this used to be where that water tower was, or close to it. So this is part of that farm I said the veterans they worked the fields and they had horses and all kinds of stuff. Pretty neat. So it burnt, or something happened to it, and so only part of it was left, and they made a fire department out of it. If you go up there now, you can still see part of this. This was a greenhouse that was up here. It was actually where the dom is now. But they made all, I don't know why. There's all kinds of questions. Why would they need a big old greenhouse at a veterans home? But there you have it. So that's the dugout, is what we call it. So when I started here, there was pool tables down here and arts and crafts. Back in the day, that's where the guys would drink all their beer. And when I started here, there was a bank up here, or credit union, and then a post office. But yeah, the guys could go in there and get, it was like a little store. There's the original hospital back there, and then the dugout. There guys are. Having their 2 beers. And I've always wondered what these things hanging down were. I think it's light that bled out, but I don't think they had lights back. I don't know what it, I don't know what it is. Because I think they still had oil lamps in the poles. Anyway, if you go over there now, oh, it's getting run down. There's windows broken and yeah. It's a little scary. But on the back part is where there was a well, there's stables for horses. Just like a year or 2 ago, we went back there and took pictures, and there was the bowling alley was stacked up, and they just cut it up in pieces and stacked it up back there. Yeah, that's what it looks like now, pretty much. The dugout. Yeah, it's sad. Well, what's cool is all this ornate around the windows. See this? It's still there. It's made out of metal. So like, you can see it here. All that. Yeah, it's still there. Just perfect.
Power wash all the paint on.
Oh yeah. Well again, at one time they said that was gonna be a Burger King for the employees and
Ended up the code with it.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of money.
Well, the Burger King was standard.
Oh, well, this is true.
So this is that Ward Administration building, and the Abraham Lincoln window used to be right there. So the hospital is just right over here, across the street. Yep, that's where the hospital is. Isn't that a crazy looking picture? First time I seen it, I was like, what the heck happened? Yeah, so they just moved this house back here to the back gate. There's that little shack thing. It's over by the hospital. With fire hoses and whatnot. Yeah. They closed this building. I always heard that they thought it was falling off that hillside. Like it was, no, it's still standing. But yeah, ever since I worked here, like windows would be out. I talked to somebody that had gone in there and they said there was just bat and bird stuff all over everywhere. It was just nasty. But the guys from Fort Leavenworth would come out here every once in a while, entertain the troops. One of the postcards. So there's the Lincoln window. You can't really read it, but it was donated by the Grand Army of the Republic. That was like a Union Civil War veterans. Union Civil War veterans had donated that. Yeah, that's what it looks like now. Now they got, this is all gone, falling off. So look at all these boards are trying to keep it together, but terrible. So that's that War Administration building. They used to have a large globe there in the early 1900s. Well, in the 1950s. Oh. Again, I
I
don't.
mean, that's what the greenhouse was for. One of
Yeah,
those plants.
all for that.
Yeah.
I think it's cool, worth it,
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah, it's cool. A lot of work for big ball. I love this. This is like 1920 something. Look at this. There you can see the hospital back there. It's just so cool to see these people, you know, they were out here. They came and visited their family or so. It's kind of a weird shot, but there's a chapel. This is before the hospital was even built, you know. So there's the train tracks in front of the hospital. There's St. Mary's across the street. So this was a fountain of a Union soldier. Every VA, or no, every old soldier's home back in the day got one of these fountains. And so, they, you know, what I can see on the internet and whatnot, that all the old other soldiers' homes put them in their cemetery area. We made a fountain out of ours, and now it's gone. So probably some guy's farm, or, you know, barn or something. I've looked and, you know, investigated, but I don't know where it's at. Just some pictures of the front. You know, when I started here in 89, 90, this was a golf course. They had like a 9-hole golf course for the veterans. It was so cool. Now there's a baseball diamond, but that's the Anheuser-Busch fountain. This is out of the mess hall, and then so the hospital's right here. There's the farmhouse. There's a little. So this is probably the 70s. It's still up, but it was soon after that. This was taken off the hospital. Oh, I just noticed. Oh, there. You can kind of see the sign there. But, like I said, with nothing there, just another stupid cannon, you know? Not that you see cannons every day, but, yeah. How much time do we have? Where you guys gotta be?
We're gonna go to the Dom after this, I think they're expecting us around 11, so.
Oh, another hour?
So it's up to you,
I
whatever.
can go as long as
drive
you want.
around too, and.
What's that?
We can go drive around and see some of this stuff too, so we
Yeah,
have.
so we don't wanna,
Yeah.
whatever, we don't wanna overextend.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Okay.
It's just you guys gotta tell me when you wanna go.
Okay.
Cause I love pictures. Well, what's cool is, they used to allow veterans to go out there and fish on this lake, and they had little boats that they can take. That's for instance. That's when they were building the Dom. I think it was 2005 they built it. That's some of the administration buildings that used to be around. So there's the stained glass window when it was in the War Administration building. Now it's just getting random. Oh, there it is. Check it out. That's pretty close.
It is.
Spanish. I didn't have the right font. And I may have added a little, but I'm excited about it. Especially since it's kind of sneaky. It's just going to happen one day. And you're gonna say, oh!
The last day you're employed here, right?
Nobody will even notice it. I'll be long gone. Anyway. There's that governor. You guys like paranormal?
Oh, yeah.
Investigating? Oh, yeah.
I was gonna ask you if any of these buildings are haunted.
So, me and my wife, we have a paranormal team. And we go out to different places and we're part of other groups, but we investigated this house, the governor's home, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. What was really interesting is that, because my wife is a sensitive, she can, spirits talk to her, and I don't understand it all, but anyway, so, she didn't even really know the whole story, but a gentleman that used to volunteer there just a few years ago, he would volunteer every day, go there. He was a veteran, but he would go there and help the nurses, with their training and whatever. And then, what happened was he got shot by his wife and died. Well, somehow his spirit is still around this building, and I guess that's what my wife said, that she was able, he kept telling her that there was a red book that the nurses need to look at. And come to find out, my wife didn't know anything about no red book or nothing. Yeah, the red book was the book that he used to note, when he was there, what he did, all that. And they had to look in there and they found what he had written, especially to them. Oh yeah. So yeah, there's spirits. There's probably spirits in this building too. A bunch of nurses who are real happy. But yeah, so and we've investigated other buildings, but yeah, if you'd asked me 10, 15, 20 years ago, I'd say, that's a bunch of hooey. But I've seen and I've heard. I've never been touched or seen. I've never heard spirits talk to me or nothing, but I've seen my wife. It's hard to explain. So there was another gazebo before the 1904 one. There's the band. This is just made up of veterans that played instruments when they were in the military. Well, that's cool. There's the band quarters. Like I said, everybody that worked here lived here. So there would have been, rooms up here for other staff to live. Because at the time, this wasn't right next to Leavenworth. It's built up a long ways. So I've seen this picture before the other day. It says Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. That's the mess hall. So this is not Fort Leavenworth. And I think people get that mixed up, at times, because the Fort Leavenworth and then we're the Leavenworth VA, but the association kind of gets messed up. Must have been laundry day. Laundry hall. I just noticed that. They're band. This is in front of the chapel. That I have no idea. That's Picnic Point, but that's the Missouri River. We're running out of pictures. There's the original hospital, which building 122 sits there now. You guys will probably drive over that area. Another picture from the cemetery. Yeah, if you get time, the cemetery is really cool. The National Cemetery. If you go over there, in the back corner, there's supposedly graves for Indians. So when they were building 122, they found a mass grave. And this all used to be Munson Indian land. That's how they Munson. Anyway, so see if we find something interesting. Where's that eagle? You can kind of see it better. Thank you, Anheuser Busch. So in the evenings, they shoot one of these cannons off. People in Leavenworth love that. That is so neat. Oh, this is like a big break room up here, I guess. So what I loved many years ago when I was a nurse is that these veterans, I mean, I took care of guys that had been in First World War. These guys told so many cool stories. I took care of this one guy because when I first started here, I was in the nursing home when it was in the hospital. And he talked about, he dealt with the mules in the war. You can't imagine having mules in a war, but in World War I, yeah, he took care of the mules. And when he came back to the States, then he started taking care of Arabian horses and then raising them and breeding them. And he became very famous with the Arabian horses. But I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much history. I've taken care of guys that was part of the Manhattan Project, you know. Yeah, so veterans, they all got stories, you know. But the old veterans, you know, they're just not with us anymore.
My grandfather's 99 years old. He'll be 100 years old in November. And he was a paratrooper in World War II and paratrooped down into Normandy.
Oh my goodness.
After graduate school, I really should go and get his story, get it right.
Oh yes.
And, because it's gonna be lost. And his mind is sharp as a tack, so.
You should.
Yeah.
I always kicked myself because I always thought, man, because I got a terrible memory most of the time. But I thought, if I would have just recorded some of these guys, I mean, back in the day, you really didn't have to get all that paperwork. Now you do. But, oh my, just neat stories, and they were just long.
Reminds me of giant tents we stayed in there deployed. You just wake up and you're all just staring at each other like, alright, cool.
Oh God, I hate that. This one guy be snoring probably, and I wasn't in the military, but I can just imagine.
That's about what it looked like.
When the secretary of the VA came, he said, "Now Joe, was you in the military?" I said, "No, but I'm an Eagle Scout." I said, "Does that count?" He said, "No." But that's what's cool about being a photographer for the VA. You know, big wigs come, yeah, I get to hang out with them. But, so I think there's been 3 different secretaries of the VA. So these little buildings are still down there. That big smokestack that you'll see in the center of the campus, that's where all these buildings are. Let's see something. Oh, this is kind of cool. This is the warehouse. So everything that's sent here to the VA goes here and then goes to the hospital. So I was over there one time and I was down in the basement just looking around, taking pictures. And I did that big camera, if you guys see in my area where my desk is, there's a big old, the old kind of cameras where you had to hold still and take the front off. I found it down there, and I said, that needs to be over here in medical media so I can show people. But yeah, stuff just kind of.
So there's no museum right now?
Oh no,
For the VA?
I'm about it. I've got little booklets I've put together and CDs of pictures and stuff, but.
I should connect you, I've known both directors at Fort Riley who oversaw the museum out there.
Really?
Yeah, I should connect you too.
Yes.
Well, one is past, William
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
I
sharing
might find
stuff.
your email and actually connect you, because you might be able to help you if you go to the museum.
So every Veterans Day parade, I mean, Leavenworth has like one of the oldest Veterans Day parades, like 100 and some years. But, so this is what I go every year to videotape and take pictures. It used to be that I'd videotape and then I'd put it on the TV, because this used to be a TV studio. And you see that rack back in the other room with all them TVs? Everything used to come here and then over to the hospital. And then I could, put it on every channel. Well, now we have cable TV and all that other stuff, and it doesn't come here, so I still put it there and put it on Facebook. But anyway, so this is one of the floats back in the day. It must have been 1950. But here it gives the years. So it was originally, when it was built, it was Wadsworth. Then it became the Soldiers Home, then Veterans Administration. So, and now we're Eastern Kansas. They used to, I think this picture, oh, there's one bicycle. Oh, here's one. They used to have bicycle races out here for the veterans. It was like a big famous thing back in the day.
Is that like a bicentennial bike, the big wheel?
Yeah, this is one of the big wheel bikes. This one's got just regular.
I've known some folks who have done rag ride on those bicentennial bikes.
Oh,
and,
really?
Yeah. 7-day ride across Iowa.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I don't know how you stay up on them at all.
yeah,
That was
definitely
my question.
use a ladder and,
Oh, jeez.
Hope you don't fall,
right?
hit a rock.
Yeah. No helmet, no knee pads, no.
Well, you're breaking something if you fall off of it.
Yeah, 'cause they're, what, 6 foot high where you're sitting. Well, that's gonna look pretty good. I just can't imagine, look at these streets, they're so wide. I don't think they're that wide anymore. There's the hospital. This used to be the front entrance. Now most everybody comes where the parking lot is. Or the emergency entrance. So, back in the 90s, there was like 3 wards of med-surg patients. When I started here, there was 1 ward of nursing home. And then there was a floor of respiratory, respiratory patients. So I started on the nursing home floor, and I had just come from a nursing home for 4 years, and I was kind of tired of that. And so I only worked in the nursing home for a year, and then I said, I need to transfer to med-surg. I want to learn, I want to, So I went to med-surg for a little while, and then I went to the respiratory floor, which I really learned about trachs and vents, and that was the cool stuff. Yeah, now all we've got is, well, A2, I don't believe has very many patients at all. We've been closed for quite a while. We've got an outpatient for veterans. I think the guys from Don come over here and have meetings. Yeah, most of the wards are not even open.
You know, social workers then.
Oh, I think so. But I think they're mostly located over in Dom area. I think they have to come over. Weird statue. Oh, I like this one. 1939. Where are all these guys at? What was his job? Anyway. I just love pictures. Because who's going to be looking at pictures of you? Well, Jesus. The thing is back then, a picture like this was a big deal. And there was only one. Now we take, I'm taking video right now with my phone. Come on, you take 50 pictures a day, you put it on Facebook. But somebody's going to look at them pictures. And what's really funny is, we reenact at a Living History Museum. I'm the sheriff of the town, as you can But, so I take all those pictures at that museum and I make them old timey, and there's gonna be a point where somebody's gonna say, look, that guy was there. Or what's really gonna happen is I'm gonna be in a nursing home, and I'm gonna say, I was the sheriff. You know, that's what's gonna happen. But, you know, that's, I'm running out of, well, that's the front entrance. There's no gate there anymore. So, there was a veteran that was going around, and, he was using a metal detector. He got, the police allowed him to do that. Most people cannot go around and metal detect, but he was over here in this area, as I understand it, and came up with some metal stuff. And what it was I figured out that from some of these pictures, there was some railing that used to come out to this gazebo, and it was down in the dirt. And he was able to find it, and we pulled it up. I don't know where it went, but he was able to find it. You guys have any questions?
That was interesting, thank you.
And they're not doing anything like this in Topeka, right? I can't remember the lady's name who used to be in medical media. And it was like,
Francis.
yeah, she went to Colorado or something.
I don't know.
And the guy who's there now, is it Jake or?
Jake.
They don't do anything like this, right? I've never.
Well, there's not, I mean, there's history there, and, but, it's not as old as this campus. As I remember it, it used to be an army hospital or something, and then, I mean, it was not where the hospital is now, it was in a couple outbuildings. And then they built the hospital. I don't know much other history on it.
I just didn't know if, I mean, all of us are from Topeka.
You can ask Jake, but
Okay.
he's so new, he may not.
Yeah. Maybe something he could start if he plans on staying. I don't know. Nobody's days anymore.
No.
Steve.
I've been here forever, and in Topeka, the medical media person's changed over multiple times, 4 or 5 times.
Maybe because they don't have the same history connection.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And,
Oh, you're welcome.
We really appreciate it.
Really cool.
Now, don't tell anybody about this.
We won't.
No,
until
you're-
it's
But
over.
when are you retiring, what'd you say?
I've got 30 years in, but I'm only 55, but it's just whenever my wife says I can quit.
Well, we'll know to come by then.
Yeah.
and see
Yeah.
if it's
I'll say,
not-
you just have to check, like, come by like once a year or so, just kinda drive by, see if it's there, and just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to take a picture and send it to each other, like, hey, look.
I think a VFW or American Legion or someone would fund getting a plaque or something, even just
They
a
probably
state
would.
plaque or something.
Yeah, because if you drive by it, you can see where this goes. I mean, I went over and measured it, that's why it's this
It's,
size.
it's got a purpose.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this is the cheap way of doing it.
Yeah, it works.
Well, it's
Good.
preserving history,
I
that's
think
the
it's pretty
beauty
neat.
of it, yeah.
Because otherwise, it's gonna be like that forever, ain't nobody gonna,
No one will know what it was.
well, nobody has the interest to go with it like this. But I don't know.
Thank you.
I'm glad you guys came to Eastern
Yeah.
Kansas.
Thank you.
So you're just doing training, you're not coming here to work, right? Or you may,
Maybe.
that'd be good.
Yeah, we work here.
We're
Yes.
employees, they're interns, yeah,
Yep.
Yeah,
social
and
work.
we're hoping to keep all of them, but we don't know, so we'll see. But, yeah.
Oh my, yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a year. When I put in my application, and you used to have to give a urine sample and this, that, and the other, and I mean, it was a big deal. But, it took like a year for them to call me back. I mean, just, they weren't hiring like they.
It still takes a long time now, but.
Yeah.
That's just good for HR
Yeah,
now.
yeah. But, well, thank you so much. We'll reach out to you next year if you're still here, I hope, and.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure. I'll be here maybe. And,
We hope so.
it's all about the wife.
We'll have to call her and let her know that you went to
Yeah.
stay.
So, in here, you guys can, there's the camera.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Rembrandt.
So what you can do, you can stick your cell phone through here and take it off. It makes it look like old timey.
Does it really? Oh, wow.
I'm just gonna make a call out on that, I'll be like, no, we're gonna take it over here, actually, just have it.
On those little bitty wheels. And some of these old pictures are probably taken with it.
Wow.
But this, I found this on the internet. Like, so the governor would have been like the director, but this is for the national home. They would have had that out in front. There's all kinds of weird stuff on there about not having horses or not,
Visitors on Sundays.
No horses will be driven on the grass or against,
all,
against the trees.
all dogs found on premises will be killed. Like, then there's some about, what is it, harassing, molesting birds. But, here's the aerial shot of the campus up here. There's the Missouri River up there.
So I've seen the old sign.
Oh, I mean, old stuff like, there's a map of Leavenworth area, in 1894. Well, if we did it, it was me. And then there's another old map. Yeah, all this, yeah, all this stuff used to run the TV station. I had a guy tell me this is very expensive. I mean, good money. The government want me to get rid of all this. No, this is cool. I said, you know, this is fun. Oh my gosh, I'll have to really get on. Listen to the hillbilly Joe. Oh, it is fun. Well, when I was a nurse, oh God, I'd stuff pajamas and stick them like we were hanging out of the floating car. And I worked not 6 feet 6 A of the food and treatment nurse. So anyway, the nurses go by that room and see that, well, I look like a veteran hanging out with a laundry cart. Or or what I would do is, I had this old man mask, and I'd get wearing all and putting those gowns on, pulling my pants up. Loved it. Okay,
Gotta make fun.
yes,
Have a good day. Thank you.
come back and see me sometime.